we've been led to believe success is having a yacht or having copious amounts of money or traveling all the time or making the life look glamorous and always this. But you know what? I work with some of those people and they will be one of the first to admit that they're not happy, at least by the time they reach me. So my suggestion is that you get good with your idea of what success is. You define it on your own terms, and then you figure out how to create the business from that model. Hi, thank you for joining me for this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. This is the business episode. So the last week of every month, I focus on business concepts and what I help my clients with, and hopefully it can help you. And as the idea of expanding who we are through business, a lot of us provide this service. And I feel like it's a need out there to balance the non-physical world with the physical world of business, the ethical business model, the heart-centered business model, and then, the money-making business model. Because why are you in business if you're not going to create a success for those around you and yourself? Thank you very much. So that's what this episode is about. It's about success. And part of the reason I wanted to do it was because I love the idea of identifying success for each of us. It's going to be different for you than it is for myself, it is for some clients I have, than it is for Amazon or for another business of that model, right? So there's all different ways that we can measure success, and they're not all monetary. From my perspective, when we focus on the love of what we're doing with systems, and then what is it that, and how do we want to contribute, the money's usually there. Okay. I say usually because not everybody shows up to do the work. And this is not something that can be just blinked into existence unless you have somebody who's funneling cash in and you don't have to do anything about it. So when I work with companies, I want to know, what is it that you feel you bring to the world, that you are contributing? And then what is it that you would like to? Because it's not always the same thing. Sometimes you get in a model or you have a product that you don't even really love, but it's working, so you keep doing it. And then you realize years down the line that you have not been having fun. And if you're going to own your own business or be an entrepreneur, there has to be some level of enjoyment or fun to it. Or what is the point? As a soul, you're here to have fun in this experience and then, have the connections and have the abundance returned to you. So the definition of success for each of us is going to be different. For myself, it's changed over the years. I've been doing this 23 years. And when it first started, it was pay the mortgage, make sure the kids' braces are paid for, to support, a partner, my late husband at the time wasn't always consistent in his work. He went for good 5-year stretches and then would just up and leave a job and not tell anybody he was doing it. That's a little disconcerting when you have overhead and when you promise to pay your bank the note on your house. So in the beginning, my level of success was kind of tossed back and forth between, I just want to help as many people as possible, and holy crap, I have to pay this bill. I'm not sure how we're going to pay it, and I better get out there and create some dough. And then it shifts over time to, I really love what I'm doing, but I have an interest that's moving in this direction from intuitive readings to coaching, and I want to go that direction. I better get certified in coaching. So I do that. And then I realized I really miss talking about building business and what it takes to do that. And what are the systems that you can create? You can tell I get excited. In video, I'm moving back and forth because I get excited about this. I know systems don't always seem glamorous or all that fun, but they are to some of us. So then it shifted to, okay, I'll only do business consulting. But then I realized, oh, wow, I really am all about the people that are within the business. So let's merge this to what you see today. Plenty of content out there that is free to consume, along with some offerings that are very affordable on up to the individual coaching that is an investment and business consulting and retainer packages. So the idea of success, if you have a business and if you're just starting out, is going to change. It's going to change as you evolve. It's going to change as the market evolves, what your customers want, and what matters most to you. And what I wanted to talk about in this episode was defining success on your terms. I want to encourage everyone to resist comparison with others and instead define success based off of what your values are. What is your measure of achievement? Because it may not be that you want to be the next, let's do a flashback here, blockbuster. Maybe you don't want to be the next blockbuster. Maybe you want to have a community store where you know the people, you can recommend what they might like to watch by what they watched, and you want to build that relationship, and you maybe want to volunteer for a position on the town board, and you want to raise your kids and actually raise your kids, be there and be present for them. Maybe it's the another version of that, and you want to not only a blockbuster, you want to do blockbuster better than they did because they kind of went out. Digital helped along those lines. But you want to be forward thinking and you want to consider what's coming up ahead and create the business that is sustaining for you for the rest of your experience. More and more people are turning, especially after the pandemic, to creating their own stream of income and creating their own success. And this often sounds like a great idea, but I have found that if the structure is not there, it is so stress inducing. It's so challenging. And in any way that I can help with that, I want to. So defining success has to be delved into by what is it in your life that you like now and what is it that you would like to change. And if you are measuring success because you're looking at others and their success in a way that is in comparison model, unless you're looking at it from a perspective of like mentoring up, oh, I see what they have and I'd like to have that in my own life. Let me figure out how I can get there. If it's in a comparison model of, well, they have it, so I can't have it. That's not going to serve you because that's scarcity, first of all, but it's also minimizing your own capabilities because I truly believe that if you have within you the desire to create a business or some kind of income stream, then you have the capability to do it too. It's just a matter of learning. Now, I also want to say, if you have never considered having a business, or maybe you tried having a business and you realized, really like that, high five, high 10. Let's get all the hands up there, pretend we're an octopus and smack them all. Because knowing that is equally as important. Just because people are trending in this direction does not mean that it's necessary. It's important for you to define success for yourself. You are someone that feels much more at peace and calm because your employer is in charge of thinking of all those things at 10 o'clock at night, and you don't want to because even though you can achieve amazing life business balance, that those thoughts still pop in when you own your own business. But if you're someone who doesn't want that, they want to log out, go home, have the life that they have, I am so grateful for you. And I know so many other people are too, because we wouldn't have service providers. We wouldn't have medical staff. We wouldn't have Like the gentleman who came yesterday and told us that our refrigerator is beyond repair. We ought to head somewhere and buy a new one. And then we wouldn't have the absolutely lovely gentleman who waited on us and got us the refrigerator. And then it was delivered today. Today, that's magic, by two equally lovely human beings who came in, did their job efficiently, were kind, and left and took the old broken one with them. So the idea of comparison in that, well, everybody's got a side hustle, everybody's got business, that's not necessarily true. And our world cannot revolve in the most supportive, collaborative way if we didn't have those of you who know themselves well enough to know that they would feel most comfortable going to bed at night knowing somebody else is taking care of the insurance claims and everything. So I need you to be kinder to yourself. If this is something, I've worked with many people who came to me and said, help me start this business from this thing I love. And we realize that, no, you love that thing you love, but you may not love that thing you love if it becomes a business. And I don't want to take that away from you and say, yes, we can do this. Of course we can do it. But is it in your highest interest to do it? And that's a level of success that needs to be determined from within. I can help bring clarity. That is my job, to provide clarity, to bring clarity, to pull the clarity out of you, out of my clients. But I can't tell you whether it's your calling or your desire to have a business. You're the one who can do that. So if you'd rather simply make things for people, like my felting, people have suggested in my needle felting that I create a business because, surprisingly to me, I'm pretty good at it. I don't want to, because that would put pressure on me in a way that I don't find pressure in this business. I would feel a pressure to produce, and I don't feel that in this business. In my business as a coach, I feel excited to get on here and talk about things. I feel excited to go into session and to lead and to write books and all of that. I guess what we're endeavoring on this year. So that would not be the same if I followed what other people have suggested and created more of the needle felting. Right now, it's kind of a crapshoot, really. If you get something, it's not because I love somebody more, it's because I had an idea for that particular person and I ran with it. So to me, to lock that up, oh, it would be sad. I have very few other creative outlets. So it's important to be honest with yourself. Yes, identify opportunities. There is something that you're really good at and you would like to continue doing, or something you came to, O'Malley's Oven in Schenectady, in Troy. I get those towns confused. Anyway, in New York, although you can order online, makes the most amazing gluten-free foods and desserts and macaron, which I learned how to make, if not say well. And that came out of the fact that she discovered she had celiac. And her stuff is amazing, and she's self-taught, and there's a love that is in that food, which makes it taste much better. As someone who went 10 years without having like bread, I had a cinnamon bun from her store. I've since taken 4 classes, but I had a cinnamon bun, and I just knew that there was so much love in this, and then the fact that it was chewy, I had no words. Yeah, me, who can talk up a storm, had no words. She saw an opportunity there and also had a need, so she moved forward with her business. I'll do a business spotlight on her one day. I'll get her on here. Uh, so her success is in helping people, but it's also in helping her own health and her daughter's health and being a part of the town. Because when you're there taking a class, people pop in and you can tell they're popping in to say hi. They may not be purchasing, but there's a relationship that's been developed there, and they'll think of her when they go to purchase things. because you cannot tell these things are gluten-free. And for those of you who have tried gluten-free and been like, that tastes like a roof shingle, it's an impressive feat that she's happened or made happen. So success, we've been led to believe, is, having a yacht or having copious amounts of money or, traveling all the time or making the life look glamorous and always this. But you know what? I work with some of those people and they will be one of the first to admit that they're not happy, at least by the time they reach me. And one of the things we do is reverse engineer their life. They've arrived in this message of success that society says, but they are not feeling any of it and feeling dejected and not valued for who they are as people. So my suggestion is that you get good with your idea of what success is. You define it on your own terms, and then you figure out how to create the business from that model. Now, I'm not saying that when you first start out, that there's not going to have to be more time put into it. Of course there is. Of course there is. You're not going to just wave a magic wand again, unless you have a benefactor who's just throwing money at you. But I haven't met anybody like that yet. So this idea of understanding who you are actually goes into the marketing and the branding of a business that you want to have. Because branding and branding yourself is actually knowing yourself. Now, you may have a product, but if you're starting the business or you're running a business, your energy is guiding this business. And it's vitally important that you take some time and you check in with what your message is and how you will connect to those that will pay you. TikTok shop is a big thing right now. And I'm watching this as a professional observer, and I'm watching people, they're so excited about their products selling, and I can pinpoint which ones. Now, of course, we'll need the data and maybe follow up in a couple of years, but of which ones are going to do okay and which ones are going to peak. And because you can tell the ones that have been doing it consistently and they're doing it because perhaps their heart led them there or their ideas and their joy about it, and they wanted to provide these things. And you can tell the ones that are in there because they just need to be loved, need to be approved of, and need to prove that this thing they have going is a successful thing. And, if you follow these trends enough, I feel for these people because often then they face a sense of failure, which I don't believe exists unless you refuse to get up and you refuse to help yourself. But there can be this feeling of failure. And a lot of that happen because know what their south point was, their humanness was, and what was their goal in this lifetime. And then from the compass model I use, the north is your soul and what was your soul guiding you to do. And it's sad to me, it's predictable and is unnecessary because if each one were to know about, I mean, you can't do until you know, but each one were to know about, okay, what are the things? And I'm going to give you some steps so that you can do this. No matter where you are in business, this would be a good idea to take a moment, take a meeting with yourself and figure out what is success to you. What does it look like in my life right now? What it looks like is helping a few people at that coaching package level so that I have more energy available to myself for writing a book, for creating more courses, and for taking the dog for a walk whenever the weather permits, because it's been so hot here. Or that I can decide, if a friend is available on a random Thursday, I can say, you know what? I actually don't have to be attached to my computer today because I've created the success and the systems that I don't feel obligated to sit here and get it done because my systems are already in place. I'll be able to get that done quickly later. So some of the ways that can help you define success, one of them is first identifying those personal values. And that's why I say it's going to change over time, because at different times of your life, you'll have different values. You'll have different beliefs about what is important right now. And hopefully you will have grown as a person and you will learn what truly matters to you. In times past, I would have said a massive savings account. That still matters to me. But you know what? It matters less than making sure that I'm okay. I'm physically available, I'm mentally available, I'm spiritually available to those who hire me, but most importantly, to my partner and to my kiddos and to my friends and those that I have committed a little bit more of myself to. So my values nowadays are a lot different than in the past when I would say, no, I can't come, I have to work. And now I'm like, let me see if I can rearrange my schedule. So identifying your personal values will also help you create a sense of purpose in your work, not as your whole self, but a sense of purpose that will go beyond the external validation. I think this is integrity. I think this is doing what you say you're going to do, following through on that, and we all ebb and flow in this, especially in business, because sometimes there's fires to put out. And, sometimes there's just a need to take a little break. But when you go beyond the external validation, so back to the example of those in the TikTok shop, if they're pounding all this stuff out because they're feeling some sort of external validation, I really meant it, it's going to be short-lived. I wish it was different, but as humans, we're pretty predictable in that way. So in identifying what is the idea and then the application of success to you, I think from that point of seeking external validation, you seek internal validation. You look for the pride that comes from within. You look for recognizing yourself for the work put in and for maybe a job well done. Maybe you guided someone in their own business and they had a level of success. This week, some of my clients are absolutely kicking you know what at creating an ease within their home life, like within their physical dwelling, because we were able to identify why they weren't doing it. And then it took a little bit for them to show up and go for that inward validation. And one of the things I said to one of them was, I know that there's another adult that lives in this house, and I know that there are children that live in this house. And I know it sounds like I'm asking you to do all of this and take care of everything and be in charge of everything. But what I'm really asking you to do is to do this for yourself, to clean up that kitchen for yourself or clean up the bedroom for yourself, even though you may share it with another adult, is a way to create what is the success that you want in this home. And if someone's not going to join you in that, you still have to create that for yourself. And maybe it'll help as an example, or maybe you can say, consistently, I've been doing this and I'm asking you to meet me in this area. So that inward validation, though, is the energy generated to keep you going. When you recognize your efforts and you recognize achievements and you get to identify your growth and then pat yourself on the back for it, creates a desire to do it more inside your head, right? Like in your practice, in your heart, and in your spirit. Like Mel Robbins has the high five habit, and there's so much science to back it up that when we congratulate ourselves and we high five ourselves, especially when making eye contact in the mirror, our brain goes seeking for more of those experiences. So that might mean instead of walking past the pile of something, you pick it up and you put it away. Do not underestimate how you can create success in your business by paying attention to your home, to your physical body, to your relationships. It all relates. So, seeking inward validation, what did you do today that made the day great? And answer that question. And if it's you brush your teeth, well, you freaking rock. So, answer that question. And along those lines, another way to help you define success for yourself is to practice some self-compassion. Okay, maybe you didn't do those things before, but you're on board now. Maybe you were needing a little bit of a rest or taking a break. Previous podcast episode. Give yourself a break before you end up with a break. So, practicing self-compassion and acknowledge that everyone is on their own particular trajectory, their own path. And when you do inward validation, you don't look so much for external validation. And that can help to identify when there are some challenges or what we might consider a setback. Are they really a setback? Maybe it's a reset. Maybe something wasn't working in the first place and you were just plowing through and not paying attention to the signs. So if you can treat yourself with the same understanding as you would another, it goes to helping you create clarity in what it is you like and what you don't like. And that will pave the way to and for success. And success can be in a monetary, it can be in a spiritual connection, it can be in your physical body, it can be in the relationships that you create. It can be that the peppers are starting to produce. I'm excited about that. They take a long time to germinate. I really need to start earlier next year. And that will put me on a path of success earlier in the season. But that practice of self-compassion, I could beat myself up for that. Or what I've done is say, well, this is the first year I've ever planted a garden of this magnitude. It's the first year I've ever really planted a garden. Last year we dabbled, but this year we went full force. And I did 90% of it from seed, and I have things to learn. And that's self-compassion. So along those lines, another way to define success is to measure, measure progress, not perfection. Perfection does not exist. But what is the progress that you're making? Those who have coached with me sometimes have been, I hope, relieved and I hope feeling safe when they didn't, the first time they come to a session and they didn't do what we said and what they had indicated they wanted to do in the previous session. And I don't yell. I don't blame because that helps no one. But we will identify why didn't it get done? Do you not want to do it? Like, are we setting a new goal? What's changed? Because sometimes when you're having a conversation in coaching, well, actually 98% of the time, the conversations you have in your coaching session take effect in the time between coaching sessions. So back to my garden metaphor, we're planting a seed, but it may not germinate for another week. So when you're measuring progress, not perfection, if someone came back to me and they said, you know what, that thing that we set up that I said I wanted to do, I got clear and I don't want to do it. That's progress. And we are going to celebrate that. And we're also going to say, good job, you did that. Because it's not always about action. It's sometimes, remember, if you've listened to the previous episodes around the compass coaching model, we have to pay attention to our wiring and from our West, like where we've been. And there may be a message in the past that, you're only successful if you keep following through, if you do this and you do this and do this. But when we come to the model of connecting our soul and our physical being, that may not be the definition of success any longer for us. So measuring progress and not perfection will help you recognize the small steps, the micro movements matter, very good, towards the goals that you've set. And you get to appreciate the effort that you put in and not be so dang attached to the outcomes, because the outcomes are going to be very different. You may launch a program that you have very high hopes for. The beta told you it was good, and it just goes, "Mhm." Well, what happened there? Were you tired? Did you not feel like you could support the process? Did somebody leave your team right before it launched? Were you more intent in launching than having all the steps be lined up and be successful in and of themselves? So many things go into this. So, regardless of outcomes, you start to measure progress and then you get to celebrate it as well. And if you'd like to experience some progress, pay attention to this commercial I have coming up. So, are you ready to invest in yourself and level up your personal, professional, and spiritual life? Yeah, I thought so. That's why I created empowering worksheet bundles. Right now, there are 4 and more that you can take advantage of over at the shop. One is overcoming anxiety, or at least quiet down a little bit, define your client avatar, getting to know me, and achieving work success. I created these empowering worksheets so you can learn practical techniques to understand your anxiety, to shift it, to define your ideal client, to understand, gain clarity on your strengths and your goals, and to achieve success in all areas of your life. And whatever success means to you, you'll have the tools you need to get started. And then you can build on that with the other bundles that are in the collection at vickibaird.com. So did any of that sound like it would help you, those bundles, the programs that are put together for you in mind? Because I respect your schedule. I respect that we all have quite a bit going on, but I also know that if we want to make any progress, we have to stop and we have to get clear. And one of the reasons I create the bundles that are there was for that reason, so that you could get clear and you could kind of guide yourself towards that. And if it guides you towards coaching with me, fantastic. Come on in. If you figure things out because of the help that the bundle created, well, that was one of my ultimate intentions and goals and a definition of success for me. Because I can't coach everybody, but I want everybody to be able to coach themselves. So another way that you could learn to define success on your terms, and this one would be is challenging, but not so much if you have a context around it. So limit the social media or the news or the friend next door or whatever, and limit the comparisons. I'm all for leveling up, mentoring up, like I said earlier, for looking at something someone else has that you want. This is actually how I got to a place of being debt-free in my life, is I witnessed people in my life who didn't have debt. And I just thought that means how I grew up. It was the marriage I was in. I just thought that's kind of how you did it. And I remember having this awareness one day when somebody said, well, I don't have any debt, thinking, I want that. I want that because ultimate freedom, right? So you're always going to have the electric bill and things like that. I guess unless you have your own solar farm, but it can turn into, anyway, not going to go there. But comparing up, great, fantastic. Comparing, so you put yourself down, no. So your brain is going to do it at some point, but I'm going to ask you to limit it, which also means minimizing your exposure to social media and anything that's going to fuel a feeling of inadequacy. Because that will also get in the way of you creating it too. Because if you're feeling inadequate, how is anything going to show up? You may not see the opportunities there. And if you don't see the opportunities, you can't act on them. And then you may be living a pretty flat experience. So if you remember that social media often showcases the very best curated, highlighted, edited, rather than the full reality of someone's life or their business success, You maybe put your own filter on that. And it's hard for our brain to do that. We did it in high school for those of us who are my age, and this social media stuff didn't exist, but we still did it. Like humans will do that. But you have to be conscious enough and sure of yourself that you aren't making those comparisons in a way that is detrimental. And it's easier to become sure of yourself when you're not making those comparisons that are detrimental. And does take a certain level of understanding and knowing self in order to do that. But I'll tell you what, it's really easy because there are so many times people have suggested to me that I just get on YouTube or I get on TikTok or Facebook Live and do live readings. It's not going to happen. I can't say that I wouldn't get a hit, an intuitive hit, and maybe share advice under the guise of advice rather than saying this is straight from spirit. But it's not going to happen because that's not how I roll. I need to know that the person I'm working with understands what I'm saying. They're okay. They can hear the message and they can roll with the message. I'm not a carnival act. So, and I've been doing this 23 years. So if you want a reading, book a reading. But numerous people have said, well, Vicki, that's a quick way to grow your platform. Well, then I don't need to grow my platform that way because that does not feel right to me. It feels disingenuous to me. And there was a time in my career where I did radio and I did take those calls. That's where I was in the career. This is where I am now, right? So the idea of what is success changes because we have to answer to ourselves and we have to do the work to know what matters to us enough to be able to say that doesn't work for me in a kind way and a no thank you way. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, somebody who I have said it to multiple times came back around again. And I said, I don't know how else to say it except this topic is done because I'm not hiring you as my business consultant. So no, it's not happening. But I couldn't do that if I hadn't spent the times I've been walking or in meditation asking myself, well, Vicki, it would be really easy. It would be really easy. And it would be something that could catapult. And I'm like, no, that's not where I am. It's not what I want. I want you to know who you are, and I'll bring my experience to that. And if we happen to meet up one-on-one or in a group setting and that's available, I'll download it. So by doing this brings me to the last one I'm going to talk about, which is surround yourself with supportive people. Because when I say those things to people who know me well, or even heard it the first time I said it, I don't have to repeat myself. I don't have to justify why I'm not doing what you want me to do, not necessarily what I want to do. So when I surround myself with supportive people, they're like, yeah, that doesn't feel right for you. You. I don't need your validation or your permission, but we are community-based. And it's nice to hear that somebody actually sees us and knows us and who support like my personal definition of success. So you surround yourself with people that you feel comfortable enough talking about what success means to you. And two, that they don't knock it down when you actually say it. Because if somebody knocks down what you're saying, this would bring me great joy because we can translate success and into joy. Like we can even replace the word success with joy. I use the word success because we know it. What I know we want is the joy in our life. So if you have people that you can share what your level of success is and they get excited with you, you're doing really well. And then be that person to other people because there may be things that you can't even fathom wanting to do, yet your friend wants to. And you're like, great, how can I support you in that? And that might mean you have to walk away from the ones in your life who are telling you you'll never do that. That's not possible. We aren't people who do that. That's going to take too much work. It won't if you're lining up with your own joy. So seek out those mentors, the friends, coaches, coworkers, partners, um, other parents who understand your vision and cheer you on. And sometimes in that, you can learn to cheer yourself on. All right. So, in your definition of success, I need you to consider that no one else is listening. Sit down with a pad of paper. I do want the pen or the pencil marker. I don't care what you write with, but it needs to be to paper because it grounds you. It grounds all of us when we're doing this. And I need you to write down what is your definition of success as it is in this moment of time when you're doing it. And because what that will also do is put out a focal point for you. And it may help you to then reverse engineer how you're going to get to that success. Sound good? Okay. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to all who are commenting, who have left reviews on the podcast. If there's someone that you think would benefit from this, please share it. I pay attention when someone says, hey, go read this book, or that there's a podcast that I think you'd like. And I really appreciate those of you that share this. And I'm requesting that because I feel like the more people who feel the joy in their life, the more joyous this world is going to be. And then we can get to actually living in peace and spread that out exponentially. So thank you very much. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to VickiBaird.com. That's VICKIBAIRD.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.